Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma fleur, sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte.
Robert Mueller is investigating Russia's attack on the American election. But now he is under attack. And this new assault is not coming from Moscow. It's coming from Fox News headquarters right here in New York. And it's coming from the White House. It's an anti-Mueller, anti-FBI feedback loop, claiming that Mueller's probe is hopelessly biased and downright corrupt. Let's cue Fox.
I think what we have here is potentially one of the biggest scandals in American history, where we're seeing, our justice system being used to really change the outcome of an election.
That's from Fox and Friends just today. Now let's cue Trump aide Kellyanne Conway last night.
The fix was in against Donald Trump from the beginning, and they were pro-Hillary.
This is the feedback loop in action. I want you to see it over and over again. Fox, Trump, his aides, GOP lawmakers, all of them, they're taking a legitimate issue, which is the discovery of a Mueller team member who expressed his hatred of Trump in text messages, and then they're blowing it up, trying to discredit the entire probe. Now remember, that team member was removed from the probe when the text messages were found. But every day it's something new, some new reason to claim the special counsel is illegitimate. So as you watch the coverage, try to notice how this works. Notice how right-wing commentators and GOP lawmakers are echoing each other. And pay close attention to the banners on the bottom of Fox's screen. Last night, I can't believe this. Fox is asking if the FBI is engaged in a coup. This morning, the banner said the investigators are in the hot seat. This isn't just an alternate reality. This is a reversal of reality. Obviously, it's Trump world that is on the hot seat. 4 Trump associates have been charged with crimes. 2 of the 4 have pled guilty. Mueller is investigating a massive fire, and everyone can see and smell the smoke. But this, instead, is what the president's hearing.
The only thing that remains is whether we have the fortitude to not just fire these people immediately, but to take them out in cuffs.
That is Jeanine Pirro, one of Trump's informal advisors, not just calling for firings, but arrests. Look, I don't say this lightly, but these FOTs, these friends of Trump, they're talking like propagandists. This sounds like propaganda, and it sounds dangerous. Pirro's demanding a cleansing of the FBI. Sean Hannity's calling Mueller the head of the snake. Other Fox hosts are calling the FBI corrupt and out of control. Rush Limbaugh is describing it as a coup. And guests on these programs are comparing the FBI to the KGB. The conservative media choir is telling Trump that Mueller is out to get you, trying to reverse the outcome of the election. It doesn't get any more dangerous than that.
It is Monday, December 18th of 2017, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. The doors are now open. I hope that you notice the board out there for our daily special. It is River City Hash Mondays. That's right. We put it together for your dining pleasure. Okay. Well, another big news day, as all news days are. We had a big weekend of just nonstop news. Brian Stelter there taking the Trump-Fox-GOP Feedback Loop to task. Now, I will mention, I have mentioned before, that crooks always think that they are smarter than the cops. And by this behavior of attacking the cops as being the real crooks, gee, I've never heard of a crook using that strategy before. I wonder how it turns out when they do. Well, let's see. What do we have on today's menu? It is an ever-changing menu, of course. We have our daily specials, which change, but each day we've decided not to give you the same old slop. Oh no, this is West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. We're an uptown establishment. Darn right. And today on the menu, we will consider the plight of the popular evangelical speaker who has been flooded with death threats by what she calls the Christian machine after she was publicly critical of one Donald Trump. You know, Heather Heyer's mom has to hide her body. They've taken her from the original gravesite and taken her remains elsewhere because Nazis and KKK want to disinter her and defile her corpse, I guess. Heather Heyer's mom, you know, the woman who was killed in Charlottesville. All right. The Centers for Disease Control chief tells staff there are no banned 7 deadly words, while quietly not refuting the Washington Post report that says that there is. And the evidence continues to mount that FCC Chairman Ajit Pai is a closeted alt-right sympathizer. That's just a nice way of saying he's a Nazi sympathizer. Okay, well, we'll look into that. And then after the break, of course, we'll clean up the front cafe and move back to the chef's table, where we will examine how Uber stole trade secrets, bribed foreign officials, and spied on rivals. And strong desert winds fuel California's 3rd largest wildfire in state history. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. All right, this first dish offered up here in the front cafe is brought to you by T-Bog, the great Tom Boggiani, out of Raw Story. A popular evangelical speaker with a string of best-selling books and a home renovation show on HGTV revealed that she has been flooded with death threats because she has been critical of Donald Trump and supported same-sex marriage. In an interview with Politico, Jen Hatmaker said the Christian machine has turned on her since she went public with her views, with retailing giant Lifeway Christian stores pulling her books from the shelves and former fans burning them. According to Hatmaker, she was part of the Never Trump faction of conservatives who were appalled by the rise of Trump during the 2016 campaign, telling her followers he made her sad and horrified and despondent. Following the release of the notorious Access Hollywood tape, she went after male evangelical leaders who defended Trump's actions, tweeting, "We will never forget, nor will we forget the Christian leaders that betrayed their sisters in Christ for power." Adding to her problems was an interview with Religious News Service where she came out and stated that she supports same-sex marriage. That was the final straw for what she called the Christian machine, saying her children were accosted in the tiny Texas town where she lives. The death threats started pouring in, and her fans turned on her. The way people spoke about us, it was as if I had never loved Jesus a day in my life, she stated in a recent speech. Writing on her blog, she stated, "This year I became painfully aware of the machine, the Christian machine." According to the evangelicist, she is refusing to back down and still delivers sermons pushing non-conservative views such as supporting gun control, Black Lives Matter, and immigrant refugees. For me, Hatmaker explained, it's not as base as I'm just not going to keep being political for the sake of it so much as it is all of this policy, all of this rhetoric, all of this leadership. It affects real live human people. That, for me, is where I am no longer comfortable remaining silent. Indeed. This is probably one of my biases, and I apologize for it. Usually when I hear evangelicals with this particular political agenda, it's usually black evangelicals, not white. So, and I'm a little confused if these can't be new sentiments that she's held, and but she was popular until she mentioned her dislike of Trump. Huh. Very interesting. All right, the second course here at the Front Cafe and West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Oh, and if you don't know already, I'm Chef Justice Putnam. Running this show here, I'm the chef owner. So I hope that you're enjoying what we have to offer thus far. This next course, as I mentioned, is out of the medical journal Stat, penned by Helen Branswell. The new director of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reached out to alarmed agency staff over the weekend to tamp down fears incited by a report that the Trump administration has banned the CDC from using words like fetus, evidence-based, and diversity in its budget submissions. Dr. Brenda Fitzgerald, who has led the agency since July, sent an all-hands email to the agency staff assuring them that the CDC is committed to its mission as a science and evidence-based institution. As part of our commitment to provide for the common defense of the country against health threats, science is and will remain the foundation of our work, Fitzgerald wrote. Wow. Obviously, she's very seditious. CDC, she continued, has a long-standing history of making public health and budget decisions that are based on the best available science and data for the benefit of all people, and we will continue to do so. Qualifying statement here is best available science and data, with the emphasis upon available, because they're not allowed to study things like gun control, gun deaths. So that science is just unavailable. So the best available. Interestingly, Fitzgerald's email did not refute the Washington Post article reporting that CDC staff had been given a list of 7 banned words at a recent budget meeting with officials of Health and Human Services and the Office of Management and Budget. The other words on the list were science-based, vulnerable, transgender, and entitlement. She did, however, quote from an HHS statement calling the report a complete mischaracterization of discussions regarding the budget formulation process. Well, of course they would say that. Now, I've taken it upon myself to use all of those words within a hypothetical budget submission, and my offering would follow. Just because a vulnerable fetus may one day identify as a transgender doesn't diminish the diversity and entitlement of an evidence-based reality, buttressed by a science-based method to assess if it really is so. So, sue me. Maybe they will. Okay. The Post published its story late Friday, setting off a firestorm of protest within the scientific community, as well it should. Not even in the scientific community. Even their fellow travelers were incensed. The Association of Schools and Programs of Public Health said that, if true, the edict was an Orwellian attack on scientific integrity. Well, yeah. In a letter to Mick Mulvaney, director of White House Office of Management and Budget, the organization demanded that the policy be withdrawn. He didn't get the letter because he's also over there at the Consumer Bureau. They got to send it to both bureaus, Office of Management and Budget and the Consumer Bureau. Come on. The report policy flatly contravenes the mission of the agency, the statement said. Grossly violates the agency's pledge to the American people and represents an appalling act of censorship. Laura Magana, president of the association, wrote, leaving this policy in place would disrupt the agency's critical work and, as a result, threaten the health of U.S. communities across the country. And the American Association for the Advancement of Science was quick to denounce the policy. Okay. Among the words forbidden to be used in CD budget documents are evidence-based and science-based. I suppose one must not think those things either. Here's a word that's still allowed. Ridiculous, said CEO Rush Holt. Dr. Ashish Jha, director of the Harvard Global Health Institute, said discussion of words that are banned or to be avoided sends a dangerous message to the agency. Well, yeah, come on. It's exactly what they're doing. There's as much a risk of self-censorship that comes out of this than actual direct censorship, he told Stat. This is the part that's much more pernicious than any direct pronouncement. So, of course, the administration and its defenders are going to argue that this is only about what goes into the budget. But we know that the signal to the agency is much stronger than that, and it's going to change behavior of people who work there, and that's much more damaging than any direct censorship. And the Stat article concludes there is evidence that type of self-censorship is already underway at the agency. Earlier this year, the CDC canceled planned conferences on the health of transgender youth and on the health effects of climate change. The one statement that was put out in the letter penned by Laura Magana, that leaving this policy in place would disrupt the agency's critical work and as a result threaten the health of U.S. communities across the country. Just want to remind you folks, that is a feature, not a bug. Now, this last course that we have coming out of the kitchen and out here in the front cafe for your enjoyment is written by Jacob Sugarman out of Alternet. Now, the evidence is inconclusive, though it continues to mount, that FCC Chairman Ajit Pai is a closeted alt-right sympathizer. On Thursday, the Federal Communications Commission voted 3-2 along party lines to repeal an Obama-era regulation to preserve net neutrality, defying Silicon Valley executives and consumer advocacy groups, not to mention the will of the people. A recent University of Maryland survey found that more than 80% of registered voters oppose the FCC's plans. But look, 2 million possible forged and stolen identity comments made out of Macedonia carry much more weight than a bunch of measly American voters. Come on. The move will fundamentally transform the internet as we know it, allowing corporate behemoths like Verizon and Comcast to manipulate loading speeds and charge customers a premium for access to individual websites and apps. Adding insult to democratic injury, circumstantial evidence suggests the man who cast the deciding vote, Ajit Pai, sympathizes with the so-called alt-right. Back in November, the Trump appointee for FCC chair unveiled his plans to junk the net neutrality rules established in 2015, arguing that websites and social media platforms, rather than ISPs, pose the greatest threat to an open internet. At the time, Pai singled out Twitter for blame. The company has a viewpoint and uses that viewpoint to discriminate, he told the R Street Institute, a libertarian-minded think tank. And to say the least, the company appears to have a double standard when it comes to suspending or de-verifying conservative users' accounts as opposed to those of liberal users. This conduct is many things, but it isn't fighting for an open internet. Now, it is difficult to know exactly who Pai had in mind, but Slate's April Glasser notes that Twitter recently de-verified the accounts of several prominent white supremacists, including Laura Loomer and Jason Kessler. The former is a YouTube sensation on the alt-right who was recently banned from Uber and Lyft for her Islamophobic tweets, while the latter was one of the organizers of the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville. In October, Kessler was indicted on a felony perjury charge after falsely accusing a man he'd assaulted of attacking him first. That was the kid in the parking garage right across from the cop station in Charlottesville who had the crap beat out of him by, it looked like almost, well, not quite a dozen, but certainly, 6 to 8 thugs, white thugs, beating the crap out of him. And it's all on video. This guy, Kessler, filed a assault charge against the kid that had the crap beat out of him. And the cops arrested the kid and held him for a while and then said, well, I don't know, maybe we can't charge the kid. What's weird about Pai's comments is that while these are all figures on the right, conservatives don't typically count them among their ranks, Glasser writes, and while conservatives do sometimes cast themselves as ideological victims of Silicon Valley's overreach, there have been no recent de-verifications of prominent right-wing figures, conservative or otherwise, not known for promoting hate. In other words, according to Pai, the demotion of racists on a social network is a bigger deal than the action that could radically change the architecture of and who succeeds on the internet. Weirder still is the video Pai released on Wednesday in conjunction with the Daily Caller, assuring millennials that they can still gram their food and post photos of cute animals if net neutrality is scrapped. In May, he made a separate appeal to America's youth by reading aloud the meanest tweets about his proposals, a nod to the popular segment on Jimmy Kimmel Live. When he's not wielding a fidget spinner and assuring viewers they can still binge-watch Game of Thrones, he can be seen doing the Harlem Shake next to a woman named Martina Marcota, a far-right conspiracy theorist who has speculated that Hillary Clinton's former campaign chair ran a child sex ring out of the basement of a Washington pizzeria. Comet Pizza, that has no basement, it's a whole concrete slab. Oh, and he's getting sued for copyright infringement, too. Terms of use for using protected material on the internet for the Harlem Shake. Before joining the Daily Caller, Markota appeared in a video for the Proud Boys, a self-described Western chauvinist men's club with ties to the alt-right. And it's also where she claimed that the thoroughly debunked Pizzagate was real. This is not something I'm making up because I'm trying to put in my fantasy version of what's going on and interject it into all these email scandals, she says at one point. This is independent of the campaign. I know what cheese pizza is. Oh, how nice. Pai, the son of Indian immigrants, has been a subject of racist attacks himself in recent months, some of them bearing the hallmarks of the alt-right. We all have the power to murder Ajit Pai and his family, an FCC commenter wrote in May. Joke. No one stands to lose more from the repeal of net neutrality rules than the patrons of websites like 4chan and Reddit, which ISPs will soon be able to slow to a crawl, so it's difficult to imagine white nationalists embracing Pai as an ally and vice versa. And yet, after the FCC chairman pleaded his case that social media networks were suppressing free speech, he earned the effusive praise of far-right radio host Matt Forney and Andrew Torba of Gab, a platform where users are generally free to be as racist or anti-Semitic as they'd like without fear of being reprimanded or censored. Gosh. I guess we're just going to have to go to Gab. It's probable, even possible, that Pai was unaware of Martina Markota's history before he recorded the latest video for the Daily Caller, but the fact remains that Jason Kessler got his start as a contributor for the right-wing publication, and Pai had no reservations about lending it his imprimatur. With a White House that has excused and enabled white nationalists at every turn, no one in the Trump administration has earned the benefit of the doubt. And we need to hold them to this standard. They are all suspect at this point. All right, let's break down here at the Front Cafe, disguise it as just a very calm cookbook store, and we'll go back to the chef's table and have the real speakeasy. All right, folks, you're listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
Food corporations and their academic cohorts keep trying to make an industrial tomato to rival Mother Nature's product. And they keep failing. They might consider this instead, the Rutgers 250. It's a revived version of the classic hybrid tomato bred in 1934 by Rutgers University and Campbell Soup. Its excellent flavor and texture made the Rutgers variety the tomato of choice for years, eventually accounting for 60% of all tomatoes grown commercially in the U.S. But it fell out of favor in the 1960s when big industrial growers in California and Florida switched to hard and tasteless tomatoes bred to withstand the crushing power of the harvesting machines they had begun using. The Rutgers variety soon disappeared from grocery bins and was forgotten until 2009. That year, with the good food movement mushrooming and with consumers demanding that supermarkets sell truly flavorful tomatoes, plant breeders discovered that Campbell still had genetic material from the parent plants used 75 years earlier to develop the original Rutgers variety. So, for 8 years, they've been working with it again, using crossbreeding techniques that go back to Latin America's pre-Columbian natives. Slowly but surely, they brought back the Rutgers and its natural flavor, glowingly described as, quote, the very taste of summer. The resurrected Rutgers is not hard enough to be machine harvested and shipped across country, which is one of its major virtues. The fact that this tomato must be grown and marketed regionally is one step toward a decentralized, deindustrialized, and better food economy. This is Jim Hightower saying, instead of trying to squeeze nature into a high-tech corporate model, this tomato represents an understanding that our food system can and should cooperate with nature and foster the growth of regional economies.
Need an antidote to the progressive blues? Want some good news about how grassroots folks are rebelling against the corporate powers and winning? Well, here's an easy-to-swallow pill for you, the Hightower Lowdown. Hightower's monthly newsletter will give you the lowdown, even as it lifts you up. It's 4 pages a month, jam-packed with facts you can use, actions you can take, and Jim's own Texas humor, all for only $15 a year. To become a lowdowner, go to hightowerlowdown.org.
Hi, it's Tom. Could we humbly suggest your donation to netrootsradio.com? All we've got to run this 24-hour powerhouse of progressive resistance radio is what comes out of our own wallets. And you are our biggest donor. And it doesn't take much, $3, $5. Just go to the bottom of our netrootsradio.com page and hit our secure donate button. Heck, you can even make a recurring contribution. And you'll get a wondiferous pair of Netroots radio stickers for application to your backpack, your bumper sticker, or your banjo. Well, it's up to you which backpack you want to put it on. So donate what you'd like at the bottom of our netrootsradio.com's homepage. Because you are our biggest donor. Netrootsradio.com. Together, we are Resistance Radio.
This is an important message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. When it snows this winter, make sure you clear more than your driveway. Before you hit the road and before you get in the driver's seat, check to be sure that your vehicle's tailpipe is clear of snow. If the tailpipe is blocked, carbon monoxide, an odorless, colorless, and deadly gas produced by your engine can build up quickly inside your vehicle, poisoning anyone inside. To learn more, call 1-800-CDC-INFO. That's 1-800-232-4636.
From United Nations headquarters in New York, this is your World in 2 Minutes. I'm your host, Luke Vargas, for Talk Media News. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson told the UN Security Council on Friday that Russia and China aren't doing enough to rein in North Korea. America's top diplomat told Moscow and Beijing that the U.S. expects them to not only live up to international sanctions, but even go beyond them. And Tillerson called out the behavior he said the U.S. finds most troubling.
Continuing to allow North Korean laborers to toil in slave-like conditions inside Russia in exchange for wages used to fund nuclear weapons programs calls into question Russia's dedication as a partner for peace. Similarly, as Chinese crude oil flows to North Korean refineries, the United States questions China's commitment to solving an issue that has serious implications for the security of its own citizens.
Tillerson went on to say the U.S. expects North Korea to stop its nuclear program before any possible peace talks could begin.
A sustained cessation of North Korea's threatening behavior must occur before talks can begin. North Korea must earn its way back to the table.
That statement contradicts remarks Tillerson made earlier this week in Washington, in which he said the first round of talks with North Korea could go ahead without any preconditions.
It's not realistic to say we're only going to talk if you come to the table ready to give up your program. They have too much invested in it.
And frustration over President Trump's recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital appears to be headed to the United Nations. On Friday, Turkish President Recep Erdogan said his country wants to see a resolution annulling the U.S. announcement introduced at the UN Security Council. If, and likely when, that resolution fails, Erdogan said the issue should be voted on by the full membership of the UN General Assembly, where it would be more likely to win support. Luke Vargas, The United Nations. Okay, folks, we've cleaned up the front cafe and moved everything back to the chef's table so we can have a little more exclusive experience here at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy with your executive chef and chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam. Some people might say Justice, and they used to when I would travel in other parts of the world where they would call me Justice. But we're Americans. Call me Justice. And one program note. I wanted to mention that do tune in to the Roundtable Roundhouse Power Hour. It is now being admirably womaned maybe, by Ricky and Roaring Girl on Saturdays, 9 p.m. on the West Coast, and that makes it midnight on the East Coast. And they'll be getting technical abilities in place and wish to take calls. But you can always go to the Netroots Radio homepage at netrootsradio.com. And if you scroll to the bottom of the page, there is the chat room link there. And you could chat with them until they're able to get Skype to work properly. What's up with Skype? Hey, come on. Get on. Come on. And also, just as a reminder, the donate buttons are to the leftish of the chat room link there. And you can always get a hold of me on Twitter at Justice Putnam and also at Daily Coz, of course. All right. So let's look at local weather here at where the mothership for Netroots Radio is beaming 24/7, 365. We are currently under a winter storm watch. It is 23 degrees outside. A little humid, so we do have the attendant river ice, river snow effect, river effect. So we do get that here where I reside and broadcast. So it is fun. And then later on, we will be getting a little bit of rain. And maybe, because it's going to dip down into the 20s, they say it's supposed to be around 50 today. I doubt it. It may be in the mid-40s or less, at least where I'm at. And then ostensibly only a low of 37 tonight, keeping my fingers crossed. And then tomorrow, rain, which we all know what that means. And then on Wednesday, yes, snow showers. Snow showers. Okay. Do I get studded tires or do I get chains? It's always a question what to do. But one has to do one or the other. Trust me. I'm a Boy Scout. Be prepared. Well, pressure has been holding pretty steady at 30.28 inches for the last few days. Visibility, though, is down to 9 miles, and that humidity is at 89%. Our air quality index is only moderate, with 55 particles per million. A lot of people burn really just stinky wood in their fireplaces. Don't they know that creates creosote? Come on, be careful. Okay, so weather from around the world is brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they have purchased, not in any libertarian fashion, mind you, not necessarily, but these people do live around the world. Okay, the fellow just outside of London proper is recording 48 degrees and clear. Paris is 46 degrees and overcast. Rome is 49 and clear. Kiev is 30 degrees with snow. Kabul is 46 with haze. Hong Kong, 65 and clear. Tokyo is 51 and clear. Sydney, Australia is 70 degrees and clear. San Francisco, California, they just ticked to 50 degrees and clear. And New York is 38 degrees Fahrenheit and overcast. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchased, and these people live around the world. All right, now that we're settled in here at the chef's table, why don't we pull out this first offering by Olivia Solon out of The Guardian. Documents detail Uber's alleged unethical, unlawful practices. Uber allegedly engaged in a range of unethical and unlawful intelligence collections, including the theft of competitive trade secrets, bribery of foreign officials, and spying on competitors and politicians, according to an explosive legal document published just on Friday. It is the latest chapter in the discovery process for the company's messy legal squabble with Waymo, Google's driverless car spin-off, which has accused Uber of stealing trade secrets. The details were outlined in a 37-page demand letter filed by the ex-Uber security manager Richard Jacobs, who left the company earlier this year. The document paints a picture of a team of employees dedicated to spying on rivals and impeding legal investigations into the company. To me, this isn't shocking. I lived in Southern California. I remember working in like little restaurants when I was growing up, where you would see spies from Knott's Berry Farm trying to steal stuff and from people who worked at Disneyland, and vice versa. Amusement parks with industrial spying going on. In the restaurant, the ice cream parlor that I worked at, it was, it was something to behold. So to me, this isn't shocking. Is it right? The law says no. Jacob alleges that when he raised concerns over the techniques being used, he was given a poor performance review and demoted as, quote, pure retaliation, end quote, for refusing to buy into the culture of achieving business goals through illegal conduct, even though equally aggressive legal means were available. Yeah, if you're not willing to break the law, you're not part of the team. Only closers get coffee. He had sent the letter to Uber's in-house counsel with his allegations about possible criminal activity carried out by the special group in May this year. Oops, that was a mistake, don't you think? Threatening to sue the company. Bigger mistake. Uber did not provide the letter to Waymo as part of legal discovery before the trial started. Oops, can't do that. I know Uber spokeswoman, this is how the Guardian is putting us. I'm just following the journalist's lead here. Said in a statement, while we haven't substantiated all the claims in this letter, and importantly any related to Waymo, our new leadership has made clear that going forward we will compete honestly and fairly on the strength of our ideas and technology. Yeah. Forget all the stuff we did up to this point. From now on, we'll be doing everything nicely. Okay. Jacobs worked at the ride-hailing company from March of 2016 until April of 2017. Wow, made it for a whole year and a month. And after his attorney sent the demand letter to Uber outlining potentially criminal activities within Uber's Strategic Services Group and Marketplace Analytics teams, he and Uber reached a $4.5 million settlement. Wow. This included a non-disparagement clause and a one-year consulting contract to help Uber root out bad behavior, Jacob said when he testified in federal court last month. Now, the letter alleges, among other things, that Uber planned to use certain hardware devices and software to conceal the creation and destruction of corporate records so that they, quote, would never be subject to legal discovery. End quote. Such records would, the letter states, implicate ongoing discovery disputes such as those in Uber's litigation with Waymo. Oops. The letter also outlines a range of intrusive techniques that Uber allegedly used to extract intelligence from politicians, regulators, competitors, taxi organizations, and activists. I don't know. Sounds like normal business activity in a competitive environment to me. Well, what is the natural level that this particular economic model always wants to achieve? Yeah, a monopoly. It's never free enterprise. It's always building to a monopoly. And how does one achieve a monopoly? Well, in some business models, they just go out and, exterminate them. Sort of like what they do in Russia. That's a business model on a national level that we used to only see in Coppola movies. On a much, not on a national level, but you know what I mean. Okay, let's see. The letter also outlines a range of intrusive techniques that Uber used. They allegedly infiltrated private event spaces at hotel and corporate facilities that a group of competing executives used during their stay. Jacobs claimed that Uber recorded and observed private conversations among the executives, including their real-time reactions to the news that Uber would receive $3.4 billion from the Saudi government. Well, nice work if you can get it. I don't know, maybe they figure when they're going to let all the women drive that they can be Uber, well, I don't know. Or maybe it's that women Uber drivers can pick up women to drive them to their appointed women activities that are allowed in Saudi Arabia. Well, live updates, photos, and videos were then allegedly transmitted back to the war room at Uber's headquarters, where the company's former CEO, Travis Kalanick, along with other members of Uber's executive team, could observe. Wow. This is like all the bad corporate stuff that we used to see in those 70s movies like RoboCop. Even Rollerball. Matthew Umhofer. An appropriate name for a fellow working for Uber. And I'm part German, so don't, come on, lay off. Matthew Umhofer, an attorney representing 4 members of Uber's security team, mentioned in the letter the competitive information gathering that was done at the explicit request of management was unremarkable and no different than what's done by law-abiding companies across the country and Uber's own competitors. Really? I actually thought that you weren't supposed to be bribing. That's against the law in America. Well, among a certain caste, it is. Umhofer also described the letter as character assassination for cash and said that Jacobs is nothing more than a failed Uber employee who underperformed and got demoted and then retaliated against his supervisors. During his testimony last month, Jacobs repudiated some of the allegations made in his demand letter, saying that he had only reviewed it for 20 minutes before his lawyer had sent it. Among those was the allegation that Uber used the marketplace analytics team to steal trade secrets, at least from Waymo, in the United States. Jacobs said that the team primarily worked overseas, but in the U.S. had researched protest and threat groups targeting Uber. Wow. Waymo sued Uber in February, alleging that the ride-hail company's acquisition of the self-driving startup Otto, founded by the former Waymo employee Anthony Lewandowski, was actually a scheme to acquire secrets stolen from Waymo. Federal Judge William Alsup, who is overseeing the trade secrets case, was only alerted to the existence of the explosive demand letter by federal prosecutors on the 22nd of November in a separate letter in which they confirmed that there was an open criminal investigation into Uber. You should have come clean with this long ago, he told Uber's lawyers in court. Oops, don't get a judge mad at you. I mean, I heard that even going in to pay a parking ticket. Don't ever get a judge mad at you. If even half of what is in that letter is true, it would be a huge injustice to force Waymo to go to trial as scheduled, the judge said. At the time, a spokeswoman for Waymo called the new evidence significant and troubling and welcomed the trial delay as an opportunity to fully investigate this new highly relevant information. But an Uber spokeswoman, Chelsea Köhler, said in a statement then, none of the testimony today changes the merits of the case. Jacobs himself said on the stand today that he was not aware of any Waymo trade secrets being stolen. Uber maintained that it did not withhold information because the letter was outside of Waymo's discovery demands. The special master, a court official helping out with the trial, did not agree, concluding in a report filed on Friday that Uber should have produced the Jacobs demand letter in response to Waymo's discovery requests. Anybody who watched Law and Order for even like 10 of its like 800,000 years it's been on would know this. But apparently, Uber alles doesn't. All right, so finishing up here in the chef's table, or at the chef's table, we have a bit of news penned by Chris Kenning out of Reuters. Strong winds that have powered the third largest wildfire in California's history were expected to further fuel a blaze that has burned over 300,000 acres. Nearly 8,500 firefighters are battling the so-called Thomas Fire in Southern California, which began on December 4th and has destroyed more than 1,500 structures and threatened 20,000 more, including homes in the wealthy town of Montecito just outside of the coastal city of Santa Barbara. Now it's getting serious. Because when you start threatening the wealthy town of Montecito, yeah, things are going to get done now. We'll see. Everybody's equal in a wildfire, let me tell you. While the winds were expected to ease today near Santa Barbara, northeast wind gusts of up to 55 miles per hour were forecast for parts of Ventura and Los Angeles counties. The blaze, centered less than 100 miles northwest of downtown Los Angeles, has forced evacuations that turned neighborhoods into ghost towns and filled the air with smoke. The fire is now 40% contained despite hot Santa Ana winds that have powered its expansion, at times sending embers far ahead of its main flank. Once again, Santa Ana winds are the winds, the meteorological phenomena in Southern California. Hot winds off of the deserts blow from the east, bringing their dry and conditions to fuel the fires. Wow. Firefighters were employing more than 970 fire engines and 34 helicopters to battle the blaze. It is a beast, Santa Barbara County Fire Department Division Chief Martin Johnson told a news conference, but we will kill it. Okay. 5 of the 20 most destructive fires in recorded history ravaged the state in 2017. Wow. That's like a quarter of each. Oh my gosh. The Thomas Fire, the 7th most destructive in state history, forced many schools to close for days, shut roads, and drove hundreds of thousands from their homes. It was also responsible for poor air quality throughout Southern California. Well, that's what happens. On Saturday, evacuation orders were issued for parts of Santa Barbara County as high winds whipped through the bone-dry terrain. In Montecito, smoke billowing from nearby canyons and pushed by the high winds choked the air, hindering aircraft from dropping flame retardant. An evacuation order for the city of Ventura was lifted on Saturday morning. Cal Fire engineer Corey Iverson, age 32, died late Thursday while battling the flames near the Ventura County community of Fillmore. The blaze's first fatality, he died of smoke inhalations and burns, the Ventura County Medical Examiner's Office said. I suppose we should just be careful and not call it an example of climate change. Let's just not do that. But it also says that when you live in a chaparral, where fire is part of the natural ecology, one should take care. So, all right, sad news, but news that we should be aware of nonetheless. So we'll be back here tomorrow. We're going to have to close up the chef's table here and get ready for tomorrow's Terrytown Chowder Tuesday. That's our daily special. And but I would suggest to stay tuned for the rest of the day. In fact, 24/7, 365 is how I'd really put it. But Hartman will be coming up about 6 minutes after the hour, followed by Democracy Now! With Amy Goodman and Randy Rhodes. And I haven't seen the homework yet, but I can imagine what we're going to be up against in terms of Mueller is a criminal now? Yeah. All right. Well, we'll talk about that and even more tomorrow on Terrytown Chowder Tuesdays. So stay tuned to Netroots Radio 24/7, 365. And we will visit with you here in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy tomorrow. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma fleur sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goël. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair. T'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-dee-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver,